What should happen with cases of missing former freedom fighters? Should apartheid-era human rights violators be prosecuted? Can the courts reveal what happened to Nokuthula Simelane and other missing ex-combatants? What prompted the launch of the Kuhlman support group's Justice Heals campaign? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Paul. The mystery around missing ex-combatants belonging to various liberation movements has come under the spotlight. This after an apartheid-era policeman claimed that the bodies of ANC activists were dumped in a disused mine shaft in Klerksdorp in the northwest. 4 men, including 3 members of the Soweto Special Branch case, continues. Meanwhile, they are implicated in the disappearance of former ANC activist Nokuthula Simelane, who was kidnapped and disappeared without trace in 1983. After years of emotional torture, Nokuthula's family welcomed the NPA's decision to prosecute the suspects. Meanwhile, the NPA's missing persons task team says it is investigating the disappearance of about 500 people between 1960 and 1994. We are live, and therefore you can call us and air your views. The numbers to dial on screen there: 089-1104-210. Our Twitter handle at Question Time 24. But before we get into the discussion, let's have a look at this clip by Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa.
We have a lot to be grateful for people who were courageous, for people who were determined to make sure that we win our freedom. People like Deputy Minister Ayanda Ndlovu. The decision to form the People's Army to fight an apartheid regime that was armed to the teeth was an act of courage and resolve by many who were willing to sacrifice their own lives so that we could all be free.
That's Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa there. My guest today, Dr. Marjorie Jobson. She's the director at Kuhlman Support Group, and from our Polokwane studios we are joined by Thembi Nkadimeng, who's the executive mayor of Polokwane, but she's also the sister of Nokuthula Simelane, who's she disappeared in 1983, and she's actually been behind this case and fighting for it to be reopened. So she's joining us from Polokwane there. Marjorie, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for making time always when we need to talk to you. The Klerksdorp mine dump matter just raised people's emotions, because they're saying, well, the policeman says, well, I know for a fact that there are people who were dumped there, and if that's not the case, please charge me.
I think I wish there were more people like that policeman who's actually coming clean on what he knows, because there are many people in this country who have never disclosed and given relief to families who have looked and hoped and waited for justice for so many years.
Yes.
It is the least we can do for people.
Now, in a case like this, where somebody is saying, I'm a former police officer, I'm saying there are people who were dumped there, what happens? Is he going to be taken up on that?
Well, what normally happens is that he needs to give sworn affidavits to the National Prosecuting Authority, and based on those affidavits, if he implicates people, the National Prosecuting Authority will be forced to lay charges of abduction and murder.
Yes.
So what has been happening at this time is that most of these police officers are now in retirement.
Yes.
And so many of them are willing to disclose what they know, because they are haunted by the experiences and the things that they witnessed. So I'm very grateful if this is going to be an ongoing trend of people finally coming forward. You know, they need the relief as much as the families need it first of all, the most. But
let's bring in Thembi here. Thembi, welcome to the show, and we also appreciate you making time to talk to us about your sister's case. You've been behind this matter for as long as there was a need for somebody to try and dig up the truth. The matter is in court. Are you optimistic?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Paul. We have been struggling as the Simelane family, and the matter has been long overdue. I actually must give my regards to Dr. Jobson, the other side there.
Yes.
They've also been one institution which has been a pillar of strength to us as the Simelane family to get through to what we have been able to go through. You are correct that the matter is still sitting at court, but it has been set aside for a bit because the police officers who are accused as perpetrators in this instance are applying for financial assistance, which government refused, and now they are litigating against government. And I think they were in court 2 weeks ago, and the case was postponed to July 2017. So another 8 months of waiting.
But Thembi, why did you pursue this matter? You're an activist yourself. Did you not perhaps arrive at a point where you say, you know what, we'll never get to know what happened to my sister, and therefore let us embrace this new rainbow nation with all its ghosts?
Yeah, I believe in a rainbow nation. I believe in a nation that is able to deal with its past, part with it peacefully, and focus into the energies of what the future needs. And I think that's a principle that Nokuthula fought for. I mean, she fought for the freedom because she loved us more than herself in the choices that she has made. But I refuse to retire on this matter when I don't know where is she, when I have not been given a sound explanation of what happened. Yes, there are casualties in each and every war, and I accept that she might have been a casualty in this South African instance of the war against humanity. But I deserve to know. She deserves the last bit of integrity and dignity that could be afforded to her in a proper burial site. And I'm aware and alive to a fact that there may never be a burial site for her. I'm saying if you have burnt her to ashes, tell me this is what happened. If you have thrown her into a river, tell me I've thrown her into a river, or I've shot her and buried her there, you will have remains. I will accept that. So I'm prepared to accept and embrace any eventuality, but I'm not prepared to embrace a situation where I can't know what happened to my sister. That one I refuse.
Okay, let me take calls here. Butani, you are calling us from right there in Polokwane. Welcome.
Thank you very much for taking my call. I think we must just affirm our support for the Ntadimeng family. Majority, we are with you. I think as South Africans, we must never ever allow ourselves to sweep matters under the carpet. We must always make sure that the truth is known, and those who were not given amnesty and did not come forth in the truth and reconciliation participation, they owe it at least to the victims, to the family victims, to explain what they did, how they did it, so that the family can get closure. I think it is not bringing about the head, but we want to know the truth. Even as South Africans, we want to know what happened to those who fought and they sacrificed their lives so that we can rejoice and live harmoniously in South Africa. I think we are for a good cause, and we must support it, and the truth must come out. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Daniel. And perhaps, Tim, let me just check with you. In Klerksdorp, obviously you may have heard what happened, where this policeman came out and said, you know what, I know there are people who were thrown in this dump. Go and dig, and if you don't find anything, charge me. Are you getting any form of not support, but any form of comfort from the suspects in Nokuthula's case?
Yeah, we are getting suspects. We know them. They applied for amnesty and they were denied amnesty. So we are not looking around in the bush and accusing every South African that we come across. We are dealing with a case that was recorded. We are dealing with a family which subjected itself to a TRC process when they were already in the middle of an investigation and was proving indicative that we are able to follow the leads. But we said we put the interest of our country first, and we subjected ourselves to the TRC. And it was this very same TRC judges who said to this policeman, your story is half-baked, we don't believe it. This case is therefore referred for further investigation and prosecution. Of course, what we know happened after that is the dilly-dallying on the part of the NPA and then DPP to deal with these matters. Hence, myself, on behalf of my family and the Klerksdorp 4, we took government to court and we won. And we won on behalf of all South Africans to say those who were thrown in this mine dump we're talking about, we deserve the truth as South Africans. Their families deserve to know where are their loved ones. Now we're talking about the mine dump which has more bodies. How many families are crying out there in South Africa today? And that's my interest. Okay. I'm saying we all deserve the truth for South Africa to prosper and make sure that we will never undermine human rights again. If we don't take ourselves and hold those accountable for the deeds, we are at jeopardy that we can repeat the same mistake going forward. Hold it there. Let's take Eric. Eric, you are in Pongola.
Yes, Mpo, how are you?
I'm well, thanks for the call.
Yes, thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Yes, I'm very empathetic with the family, what happened to the Simelane family.
Yes.
But I also want to know what happened to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the results of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Were the people compensated?
Okay, I think Mashru here will be able to help us with that.
The question was, what happened?
Yeah, with the TRC, were people compensated?
Okay. Well, the issue is that the TRC did as much as it could manage in very limited time. They had about 18 months to deal with the cases of victims of gross human rights violations.
Yes.
Out of those 18 months, a very limited number of 22,000 people were recognized as victims who could apply for compensation. Yeah. Minister Masuta agrees with our arguments that excluding people who should be on the list to be compensated is an administrative injustice. We are working very hard to try and persuade government that we need to now have a compensation commission that will not have all the obstacles to people who were left out by pure bureaucratic mistake. We need to have a proper solution. We need all of the people to be included on the records, okay, and everybody to have access to compensation, because the pain that people have suffered and the sacrifices they have made has not yet actually been recognized. I appreciate the Deputy President raising the issue again now, especially at Christmas time, when people feel those losses very acutely.
Hold it there. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll continue our discussion. The numbers to dial, 089-110-4210. This is Question Time.
It's more than a gift, it's capturing summer magic. Get a Galaxy S7 Edge in blue coral for 599 Rand per month on Smart S, plus a Gear VR headset or an accessory kit.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time. The numbers to dial 089-110-4210. Our Twitter handle at Question Time 24. And my guest, Dr. Marjorie Jobson. She's the director at Kulumani Support Group. And from our Polokwane studios, we've got Thembi Nkadimeng. She's the sister of MK Kaida Nokuthula Simelane, who disappeared in 1983. And we're talking about the disappearances of former liberation fighters. You probably know some. I mean, I also do. We've never found them, and it's really not an easy thing to deal with. You saying you're getting cases of cadres and combatants who disappeared like every week?
We are having about 3 families a week coming to complete the detailed questionnaire that we fill in, because we submit the cases to the United Nations Working Group on disappearances, particularly because if people didn't come forward during the TRC,
yes,
they no longer have remedies in terms of the TRC. So we have to expand the scope to get the Special Rapporteur and the Working Group on disappearances to actually help us put pressure on government to say this can never be swept under the carpet. We have to make sure everybody is covered.
But you hold a very radical view that all perpetrators of human rights, should face the law now.
Well, absolutely. If they didn't take advantage of the extraordinary conditions that were created for them with paid legal assistance at the state's expense, these people now didn't use that opportunity, and now they're trying to force the same conditions that they used at the TRC, and it's no longer. I mean, the minimum they should do is pay their own legal costs, having turned their back on what the state offered them. So I absolutely believe, it's now they didn't use the opportunities. I know Thembi agrees, and Thembi and I have been looking at which other cases can we manage to bring the National Prosecuting Authority to prosecute, because it seems that only the threat of prosecution makes people divulge the truth.
Okay. Well, Thembi, I don't know, maybe I'll be accused of being a typical media person here trying to sensationalize things, but is it true that one of the cops in the Nokuthula's case is a priest or a pastor who is refusing to cooperate?
Well, he is a pastor, yes, or he's a leader, or a man in leading in a particular church. The reality is that he received an amnesty, and as a family was saying, we embrace the choice of the justice system, and we respect that. But we were expecting that he could be able to assist us in some of the leads that could lead to what ultimately happened in Nokuthula. About his role, he was clarified, and he clarified the court, and convincingly so, and he was granted amnesty. But all we are saying as a request as a family is that though he was granted amnesty, he still carries a responsibility to assist not only the family but the country, which is trying to close a process which was unfairly and unjust to the African people. And I find it very strange that a man of God, a man of the cloth, cannot be able to find it within himself to assist us. But yet he wants to meet us and say, I'm sorry for my part. But he doesn't want to give responsibility or take responsibility for what he did and what he knows, even if he was not part of it. I mean, we know policemen were operating in a circle. You might have not been involved in a particular case, but you probably were sitting with people who you know for sure that they told you this one we shot there, we buried her here, or this is what happened. If he can give us those clues, we will be grateful as a family. But of course, we wish him well in serving the Christ and the God that he is serving today.
Now, what happens to those who died probably outside the borders? You know, somebody may be, his remains are probably still lying in Marondera in Zimbabwe.
I mean, for families, and because of the significance of human remains in African spirituality, people really, really want to return the bones back to their ancestral graveyards.
Yes.
So I think it's something that we have to take account of, that we have to provide for people. I just wanted to tell you about a very recent case that we've been following up, of the man who was the MK commander for the entire East Rand.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Colin Molapo,
Yes.
who disappeared. After 3 months, his family was called to Kamatiput, and they were given a coffin riddled with bullets, with a body that had obviously been dead for many, many months already.
Mm-hmm.
And they were forced to bury that body in that shameful coffin, not knowing the story behind it. And up till today, that family wants a decent coffin and a proper burial in a place where his status as having done this incredible, the East Rand at that time was an absolute war zone, and he ran the operations from there. And to have such a shameful place, he's buried in Sabi. The family have made a small sort of concrete tombstone, but he hasn't had the respect, and he hasn't had at least the minimum of a proper coffin.
Okay.
And I've actually asked the people who were involved in that, I've asked Eugene de Kock, because the family feel that Eugene de Kock harassed them every single night in their home in Kwatema, and they would like him to actually pay for a new coffin.
Okay.
And I mean, I think those are the gestures. In Tembi talks about take responsibility for what you did, be regretful, but then also do some act of restitution, like buy that family a decent coffin, having been implicated in these kinds of atrocities.
Okay. Tembi, finally, perhaps from you briefly, what would be your message to those combatants who served with Nokuthula?
I think my message to them is to never give up. I mean, I meet with MK soldiers who know Nokuthula or who know of other cases that are unresolved, like Nokuthula's case. And you see people who are yearning for justice to be served, but also who are yearning for the families to be relieved. I've seen my mom's anguish for 30 years, in fact 33 years, for as long as I can remember. She has been searching, she has been crying, she has been looking forward to getting the remains or a clear message of what happened. For we all know she will not be alive by now, but the essence is that we need to soldier on. We need to be able to be given as a country a message and knowledge of what happened to our loved ones. Okay. For us to be able to respect our constitution. For us to be able to make sure that indeed, in the words of Nelson Mandela, we say, never and never again may this country of ours undergo what it underwent under apartheid system. We will not be able to respect that if we don't know the in-depth of these atrocities. We will never be able to teach our children to respect our country and value it if they don't know the depth of the sacrifice that my sister, your brother, your mother, your father, your uncle had to undergo to make sure that this country is free.
Tembi Simelane, thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, Tembi Nkadimeng. Yeah, your husband will not be very happy with me there. My apologies, Tembi Nkadimeng there. And Dr. Mashra, thank you very much for your time as well. But that was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. For me and the crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. I will